This is 5 on 20 News with Joel Foster coming to you live from our downtown studio. It is July 4th, Independence Day. Let's talk local headlines. The Arizona legislature passed a series of emergency funds for maintenance at the University of Arizona. Governor Doug Ducey signed off on the emergency measures, which will provide a $1 billion bonding package that will be built into the 2018 state budget. The funds will address the long-needed repairs along with new funds for research and development projects. Starting in 2019, Arizona universities will receive $27 million per year for the next 25 years from the state's general fund, with an annual increase to match inflation up to 2%. The universities will match the funding with their own money to go towards research and development and maintenance projects. Under the plan, Arizona State University will receive about $12 million. Northern Arizona University will receive $4.5 million, and the U of A will receive $10.5 million. Not bad. The proposal, SB 1532, was largely supported by Arizona Republicans, but was rejected by some of the state's Democrats because they felt that it would take money away from the state's K-12 education system. A study by the state's universities showed that Arizona's 3 state universities needed about $691 million in delayed repair work and maintenance. This includes improvements to electric systems, which caused a power outage at Banner Health earlier this year. The University of Arizona said that it needed about $312 million in repairs for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, along with roof, flooring, wall, electrical, and plumbing repairs. Woo! The university says that if maintenance is left untouched, then costs could exceed $1 billion by 2025. The U of A is considering offering classes in heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and plumbing, where students would get hands-on experience fixing up their own classrooms. Sounds like a good plan. Arizona Secretary of State Michelle Reagan announced that the state will not comply with White House requests for voter information. This marks a change in tone after Reagan said on Friday that she would provide only some of the requested voter information. The information was requested last week on behalf of a commission set up by the Trump administration to analyze allegations of voter fraud made by the president. Remember those tweets? The commission requested publicly available information on voters' names, date of birth, addresses, political affiliation, vote history, felony records, and the last 4 digits of their social security numbers. Reagan previously said that Arizona will provide the commission with information that is already publicly available, but will not hand over social security numbers, birth dates, and other personally identifying information. However, yesterday, Reagan said that it's not in the best interest of the state for the federal government to be able to force the state to turn over information. Shock. The commission is run by former Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, who claims that there were over 5 million instances of voter fraud in the last election, although he did not provide any evidence to the claims. Kobach is perhaps best known as one of the architects of Arizona's SB 1070 law that made it legal for law enforcement to request immigration papers upon routine traffic stops. Many states have put up a fight over the recent requests, with Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, I think that's how you say it, who told the commission to, quote, go jump in a lake in a tweet on Monday. Dozens of states have already said that they will not comply with the requests unless the commission reveals their plans for what they plan to do with the voter information. Republican-dominated states like Louisiana and Mississippi have also refused to hand over all the information, claiming that the commission isn't being transparent in what they will do with the information. The Secretary of State in Mississippi took a similar note as Klobuchar, telling the commission to, quote, go jump into the Gulf of Mexico. According to Kobach, the commission plans to spend the 4th of July jumping into various lakes and the Gulf of Mexico in order to convince states to comply with their request. Let's see how that goes. The Summer Haven community on Mount Lemmon was evacuated Monday morning because of the Burro Fire, which has so far consumed over 19,000 acres of land. A community meeting was held last night and this morning at Swaharo High School, where community members were updated on the status of the fire. The fire department hasn't been able to contain the fire because of high winds that have been spreading the fire in all directions. It began in the foothills of Reddington Pass near Burro Tank, and the cause of the fire still under investigation. In the meantime, Mount Lemmon is closed off and a temporary flight restriction was put into place, which includes drone flights. Officials said that there were hints of thunderstorms last night, but no precipitation ever came, so the conditions only caused high winds. This further spread the fire into Tuesday morning, when fire officials used infrared technology to survey the damage. When we gather for fireworks tonight, let's do a little rain dance. Hopefully that works. All right, Suntran and Teamsters Local 104 agreed to extend a labor contract until July 8th in order to keep the city's transportation services running for at least another week. Due to the agreement, contract negotiations will continue beyond the expected end date of June 30th, which would have been last Friday. In the meantime, all Suntran buses will operate on their regular schedule. However, if the contract isn't negotiated by July 8th, Suntran operators could go on strike, which would massively impact transportation in Tucson. For those who have cars, now would be a good time to sign up for Lyft. You're doing all right. All right, the second phase of Prop 206 went into effect on July 1st, which guarantees sick leave pay for Arizona employees. The rule includes all full-time, part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees in the state. For every 30 hours worked, an employee will receive 1 hour of paid sick time. Small businesses with less than 15 employees must get at least 24 hours of sick time per year, while larger businesses will have to provide their employees with at least 40 hours of sick time. Depending on the company, unused sick time may be bought back or rolled into the next year. The first phase of Prop 206 raised the minimum wage to $10 an hour, with the wage increasing to $12 an hour by 2020. Depending on where you stand politically, the law is either a huge step forward for a living wage in the state or a disaster that will ruin the economy. You can argue about it at many of Tucson's fine coffee shops, where employees will no longer be serving your latte while being infected with the flu. So isn't that nice? Now, in national and international news. New Jersey legislators and Governor Chris Christie struck a deal last night to end a government shutdown in the state. The showdown between Christie and the legislatures began when Christie demanded control over $300 million in reserves from the state's largest health insurer, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. Because Christie is all about that small government, right? Christie ordered the insurer to hand over the $300 million in reserves to fund a program to treat opioid addiction. However, the Democratic-dominated legislature didn't want state government to have so much control over a private company. Let me repeat that. Democrats didn't want state government to have so much control over a private company. Yes, it looks as though President Trump somehow reversed the whole universe. The impasse forced a showdown with Christie refusing to sign the budget if there wasn't a separate bill involving Horizon Blue Cross.
Check.
But on Monday night, Christie struck a deal with the legislature where the reserve amount, the $300 million, would be capped. Any money over that cap would be returned to subscribers of the healthcare company. Before the deal was struck, a shutdown hit the state on Monday, with 30,000 to 35,000 state workers forced to take an unpaid day off. It also caused the Jersey beaches and parks shut down for the 4th of July holiday weekend. Meanwhile, Christie felt it was okay to make it a private beach day with his family. Clueless? Sure. But at least we got this sexy photograph to show up for it. Watch the throne, Bieber. All right, the Trump administration is still de facto when it comes to offering a Spanish-language White House website. Even though the White House has maintained a strong online presence with multiple daily tweets from the president, there still remains no Spanish-language version of the site. Maybe it's because the White House recently eliminated the position of Director of Hispanic Media Outreach. While the White House does maintain a Spanish-language Twitter account, the tweets are heavy with English text, and they feature sloppy translations, such as missing accents, which could change the meaning of the words, as many of you know. But we knew that the Trump administration was wary of accents, so it's not unexpected. The Spanish language account has only sent out about 41 tweets since Trump's inauguration, and more than a third were written during Trump's first address to Congress. So we'll unfortunately never get to see the Spanish translation of Confifi. Half of these tweets were also written in English, so kind of ruining the point of a Spanish language Twitter. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, said that, quote, IT folks are working overtime to put up the new Spanish language site after the original was taken down hours after Trump took office. Spicer said that, quote, trust me, it's going to take a little more time, but we're working piece by piece to get it done. The first piece is finding someone who speaks Spanish who's willing to help the Trump administration. which has proven difficult for some reason. Over 5 months since Trump took over, the page still reads, "Stay tuned," of course, written in English. Oh, but the White House has made some headway on some Spanish language social media content. That's right. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, launched its own Spanish Twitter feed at ICE Español. Now you can receive threats of deportation in your own language. How exciting. Another Independence Day is upon us, and there's plenty of fireworks going on between Americans who are divided more than any time in recent memory, as you might have noticed. According to a new poll by NPR and PBS NewsHour, 7 in 10 Americans say that the level of civility between Democrats and Republicans has gotten worse since the election of Donald Trump. Just 6% said that the overall discourse between the two parties has improved, proving that some people will say anything to get a pollster off the line. In comparison, 35% in 2009 said that civility had declined following the election of Barack Obama. The results didn't differ based on political party, as 8 in 10 Democrats said civility got worse, with 70% of independents and 65% of Republicans agreeing. So it looks like Democrats and Republicans can agree on something after all. Isn't that nice? Pollsters concluded that Americans are experiencing a decline in friendly discourse. They said that if you disagree with their conclusion, then you're a cuck, a moonbat, or one of the sheeple, and you're probably being paid by George Soros or the Koch brothers. A judge dismissed a lawsuit against Facebook that accused the social media site of tracking users' web browsing even after they logged out. Plaintiffs in the case alleged that Facebook used the like buttons from other websites to track which sites they'd visited. They claim that this violated federal and state privacy laws. However, District Judge Edward Davia dismissed the case because he said that the plaintiff didn't have a reasonable expectation of privacy and didn't suffer any economic loss. The judge also said that the plaintiff could have taken steps to keep their browsing history private, such as using incognito mode, and that the company didn't eavesdrop on their conversations. However, the judge said that the plaintiff could file a breach of contract claim again, but that the case could not involve the issue of privacy or wiretapping claims. In 2014, Facebook began using web browsing data to create targeted advertising to users. This explains the creepy situation where when you visit a site, then you see an advertisement for the company on Facebook 5 minutes later. We've all had that situation happen. However, Facebook said that users can opt out of this type of advertising through their user settings. All you have to do is click Account Settings, wait 5 seconds, text 9874 to yourself, say 3 Hail Marys, then voila, you've opted out. A federal appeals court ruled on Monday that the EPA cannot stop a rule that requires oil and gas companies to fix methane leaks in their equipment. On June 5th, the EPA announced a stay in the Obama-era rule after agency chief Scott Pruitt wrote a letter stating that the EPA was reconsidering the rule. But the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said that this agency doesn't have the authority to reverse the rule. The case arose in response to a lawsuit filed on June 5th by a coalition of environmental groups such as the National Resources Defense Council, or NRDC, and the Sierra Club. They argue that the EPA did not follow procedures according to the 1970 Clean Air Act when it stopped the rule. David Doniger, director of the NRDC's Climate and Clean Air program, urged other environmental groups to launch their own websites to stop what he says is the agency's goal of reversing environmental protections. Where did he get such a crazy idea? From the EPA head himself. In his letter from April, Pruitt said that he would follow a Trump administration directive to, quote, suspend, revise, or rescind Obama-era rules that Pruitt says will burden the development of U.S. energy sources. Can't Trump just challenge Obama to an arm wrestling match and get it over with? All right, guys. So it's July 4th. Enjoy your beers and your hot dogs and get along. Talk about politics. Don't get into a fight. Agree. We all love each other. We're all on the same side. This was 5 on 20 News. Happy 4th of July, Tucson. Woo!
Thanks, Joel. All right. So, oh wait, cut to camera 4. America, America, God sent his face upon